Well, good morning. Good morning. It's wonderful to look out and see all of you. It's particularly wonderful to look out and see you because I had some eye surgery on Friday and you're a little blurry until everything settles to where it's supposed to be. And I have written this talk in big letters and hopefully I will see it and we will get this done, right? Our theme this month, if you couldn't tell from our opening song, it was about, this month is freedom, kind of obviously based on July the 4th happening this month. And what I want to do is give us a quick review of the messages we've already had for a couple of weeks for those who might have missed it. 2 weeks ago, we covered that freedom is not something that is granted to us by a government or by the Constitution. It's really this inherent divine attribute that we have because we are expressions of an infinite spirit. What we celebrate on July the 4th is all about this exterior form of freedom. It's something that happens around us, outside of us. While true freedom is actually an inner attitude. It's what's going on within us. And in support of that concept, I noted that we can live in a free country, but we can continue to be totally enslaved by our own fears, our past, our habitual thinking, our past conditioning, the things we have accepted to be true about us from others. And we can also be in very restrictive circumstances. And I mean, there's some wonderful movies out of people in prison or in POW camps or involved in the Holocaust who have stayed free within their own consciousness. The focus in that talk was on our own self-imposed limitations, what we put on ourselves or what we have accepted from others around us. And I shared a couple of different story metaphors for that, and they're going to come up again today, so let me just cover that again. One of them was the story of a little eaglet that fell out of its nest and got picked up and put into a chicken coop and raised as a chicken. And the other was about an elephant, a grown elephant, who had been held by this little rope on a stake when it was young. And the rope was enough to hold it then. Well, now it's this great big elephant, and there's still just this tiny rope, and it's still held by that past conditioning. And so those anchored that idea that our past conditioning is the only thing that can keep us small when we are actually magnificent. And then last week, Reverend Tony challenged whether we really believe what we say we believe. And he focused on one of our core tenets, and that is we believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. He spoke to the courage it takes to actually walk our talk. And he shared a really powerful personal experience he had recently of leaving his insulin supply at a hotel along the route of a lengthy foreign journey he was on. And he had some choices to make. He chose not to panic and either come home or interfere with the whole vacation trying to go back or get or replace anything. He chose instead to focus on this idea that conditions are in control. And you did say you had to look at the internet to be reminded that your diet and what you did with your body, that you did have control, and you exercised that control. And what happened then was the trip carried on. All the things that were to be done were done. You lost 24 pounds. And part of that, though, would have to have been your decision to focus and align with the idea that this healthy body of mine knows what it needs, knows what to do, and all I need to do is support it. And so I know that the other result is that you've become absolutely convinced that conditions are, in fact, in our control. So what he shared shows that when a person decides to stop letting external conditions control, even a heavy thing like a medical situation doesn't have to dictate our reality. So changing the inner changes even our physical experience, proving we are never, never, never at the mercy of the material world. So today, what is the next logical question? If we have the ability to fly, if we but recognize it, if we are just being held still by a tiny rope we could break, If those illusions are holding us, if the stories that we heard about healing and transformation we discussed prove that we have power, but we're still just walking around pecking at the corn and standing by the stake, what do we need to do to prove to ourselves that we do have choice? Because we're acting like we don't. Why do we choose restriction when freedom is obviously at hand? Now, we claim to know the truth. We come here, we sit in these seats, we read Ernest Holmes, I talk, Tony talks, a lot of us talk about these truths. We do our meditation, and we affirm that we are divine, infinite beings. But most of our daily choices look a lot less like infinite divine splendor and a lot more like, oh, Lord, let me just get through this Zoom meeting, right? We get all caught up. When we could be claiming the universe, we are instead caught up in these little micro frustrations of the day. So how can we close this gap between what we can be and where we're spending our time? In Science of Mind, we have a very foundational teaching that the law of mind is neutral. It's a neutral creative medium. Now, what does neutral mean? It doesn't judge. It doesn't argue. It doesn't filter. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what you have done. It doesn't care whether you ought to be asking what you're asking. It doesn't even care if you're going to appreciate the results you get when they are delivered. It simply takes the mold of the dominant thoughts. Now, that's an important word. Our dominant thoughts. What are we perpetually thinking about? What is really occupying our minds? It takes those dominant thoughts, builds exactly what we design, and with ultimate creative force, delivers it. So kind of understand, here's a story about how we could be misusing this power. Let's say that we're going to have a raffle. And what we're raffling off here is a world-class infinite architect services. And you win the raffle. You are going to have this architect that has unlimited resources, that has perfect skills to provide anything, that can build absolutely anything and use anything to do the building. So you might go, oh my God, I'm going to build a palace of love and joy and peace and abundance. And tomorrow you go to the appointment with this amazing architect that's going to deliver everything, and you think you brought with you a blueprint for this palace. But what actually occurs is you hand over this kind of wadded up, chewed up, multifolded, scribbled on sheet of paper. And on it says, I hate my job, but I have to go to work to pay the bills because I have to pay the bills. And my back hurts because I have to do all these chores and I never have time to do them. There's never enough money for everything. I have to take care of my family. That's what's on there. So you hand that over, thinking you just asked for your palace, but your dominant perpetual thoughts are on that paper. And that's the blueprint you're handing in. So the architect, the amazing architect, delivers exactly what you asked for because it loves you. It loves you perfectly, and it says, thy will be done. No judgment. You get what you asked for. It goes to work. It builds your house, and it's made up almost entirely of have to and never. And you know what supports have to and never? You know what's under the surface wall of the walls? Oughts and shoulds. That's our house. So what do? Well, you walk around for a while thinking, I got this house, but you're busy. You're looking at your schedule. You're looking at your bank account. And then you notice, this is not exactly what I had in mind. This is not what I thought I ordered. And finally, you call up it's like, who put this wall of obligation up? Why is my life still so stressful? And the universe, the architect, comes, says, well, you did. You see that corner over there? You ordered that last Tuesday about 3 o'clock when you said, I have to go to this miserable meeting. So you ask, well, where's the love and the peace and the joy and the abundance that I asked for? And the architect, oh yeah, you did spend 10 minutes on that. Hang on, come on. Come to this closet. You see those 3 nails? There they are. That's the sum total of how much time you spent on what you thought you were going to ask for. And all the rest of this house is what you're actually spending all your thoughts on. Every thought goes into the blueprint. Every word is a line on the order form. We are the ones that are drafting the design. To make a truly liberating choice, we must first wake up to the idea that everything we do is a choice. Not choosing is a choice. It's a choice to let outer circumstances and others control our lives. Now, when I first selected this title, I thought that I was going to talk a lot about how to make these authentic choices that were really coming from who we are and getting in touch with the inner self. But you may be noticing just in the terminology so far that what kept coming up in all the research I did is the strength of this have-to business. That a lot of us are slaving along on this having to. I got so much input on that I decided I would have to, here's a hint what's coming, I should choose to address that first before I worry about the authenticness of our choices. Now, we'd love to live in this collective illusion of obligation. We take that giant elephant metaphor from week 1 and the idea that our magnificent, powerful selves are being held by this tiny little rope, and we apply it directly to our daily calendars and wrap ourselves up in this whole duty thing. We love to play victim. We love to play victim to our own schedules. So listen to the language we use every day. I have to go to work. I have to do the dishes. I have to go to this family dinner. Now, probably even in this room, even right after this talk, you wouldn't get a peep of disagreement if you say those exact same things, because all of us do. It's a part of our nature. It's a part of the way we communicate with one another. I have to do these things. So we don't even notice what impact it's having. But you know what's true? We don't have to do anything. You don't have to go to work tomorrow. You don't have to do your dishes. Now, they may build their own ecosystem in there eventually. Get up on legs and walk out if they get tired of the situation, right? You can skip the family dinner. Will there be consequences? Of course. There will absolutely be consequences to those decisions. Your boss may fire you. Your kitchen's going to smell really bad. And the relatives might be really upset, but choosing to accept a consequence is a choice. When you say the words, I have to, you're pretending that tiny little rope on your ankle is still strong enough to hold your massive divine spirit. You're actively giving away your divine authority to a calendar item, a boss, a bill, an expectation. You are choosing to act powerless in a universe where you are completely free. What's needed for us to get a shift in attitude? Well, we got to create a different blueprint, don't we? If we want to live in a different house, we got to give the architect, universe, a different plan. So, if you want to really put some focus on making that shift, on walking away from the stake that has held you in place like the elephant, you have to stop using the words, I have to, I ought to, I should, or whatever it is that you use to make the statement, I am powerless. Find your words. When are you saying, I am powerless? You know, I have to say, Sean, are you still in the... When I first saw the words to that song, I thought, bad, bold. I mean, it was tough. But what is the big elephant? The big elephant is bad and bold and tough, right? He's got the strength. And I realized, no, this is, and I also, I watched the video and the girls singing, yeah. And I thought, no, that's true. Deciding that we are in charge is a big, bad, bold, tough decision because it's so much easier to just fall back into the habits. So much easier to take the route we've taken before. So much easier to just keep replaying. Yeah, one example I got when I was doing the questions, I didn't throw it in here, but was the idea that, you get a beautiful new car. Instead of a new house, let's have in the raffle, you get this new car, and it's got this fabulous GPS, but it's programmed with everywhere you already been. Right? And is that part of that's kind of what we do. We don't reprogram, we go with the program we've been following, back to the same places we've been before. So when we want to reprogram and use our new GPS, when we want to give the architect a different idea, then we have to make these shifts and changes. You've got to just get this stuff out of your vocabulary. So try that this week. But you got to put something in the void. Right now we've got a whole void in our speech. I guess you could just say, I'm going to do it. But better yet, I choose to, I love to. It makes a big shift when you do this. And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where spiritual practice gets very real for us. So try saying outside, so you get the electric bill out this week, and instead of, I have to pay the electric bill, I choose to pay this electric bill because I love having a hot cup of coffee in the morning and a warm shower, and I'm really fond of having Wi-Fi in my house. We got to test that yesterday. I think I had done brushing my teeth and was doing something else at 7:40 in the morning, and oh no, that was Friday. No, that was yesterday. And the electricity went off in our house. It just poof, it was gone. But it was a few minutes later I got out, and he was awake, and he had a cup of coffee already. And he also informed me it was going to be 10:15 per Duke before they got things done. So we had to make some decisions, and we did. We went out for breakfast, and then it turned out it was back on at 8:08 or something. We could have. I probably could have survived from 7:40 to 8:08 without coffee. But it is, that matters. It's not a good morning for me if I don't get to my coffee cup. So be thankful. I am so happy. I love paying my mortgage because I love this home that protects me and holds my stuff, and I can have my friends here, and it's got all these wonderful things in it. I choose to spend Sunday afternoon with this fabulous, wonderful family that has supported me all of my life and loved me through so many things. That is different than I got to do this, I have to do that. That is giving the universe and yourself a completely different message about the same things, right? Notice how, it's a simple shift, but you stop being the helpless victim. And instead, you are now the master. When you pay that electric bill, I am the master of my abundance, and I choose to use some of it to bring this comfort into my life. Same with the mortgage. I am the master of my abundance, and I have chosen. In fact, I love the choice I've made to bring this home into my life. If you get to an item on your schedule this week, and you look at it and you realize, I cannot, in all honesty, say I choose it or I love it. I just don't. Hey, this is an opportunity to ask yourself some questions. Now we get into the authenticity a little bit, right? You have to ask yourself an eagle kind of question here. Why am I still acting like a chicken when I have found out I can fly? Why am I down here pecking corn when I can fly? Why am I keeping this restriction in my divine experience if it brings me no joy, no growth, no peace? What can I do differently? The eagle never found out without some help, right? Remember the story, there was a naturalist that came. And it took a while. We started in the barnyard. You can fly, go fly. Nope, not going to do it. I'm a chicken. Up on the top of the barn, fly, you're built to be in the sky. Fear, put the chicken back down, the eagle down, and he rolled off the roof. Had to go up on a hill, and not only did the naturalist need to tell the eagle it was an eagle and it was supposed to fly, it had to get the sense of it. When it finally touched into the inner knowing, that's when the eagle was able to fly. So, what can you do differently when you ask yourself truly, why am I not flying? I have the ability to walk away from the rope by just taking one mindful step to do so. Why am I not doing it? If you can't choose it with grace, it is time to let it go. And true freedom, of course, true freedom isn't the absence of responsibilities or the absence of bills or schedules or family or friends. True freedom, though, is the understanding that you have choice within all of those frames. It's knowing that you are the true author of your own experience. It's not done unto you unless you are letting that be the way things happen. If you choose to let it be done unto, then it will be. But if you choose to have it be done by you, that's your experience. You're the eagle. You're the elephant taking the mindful step. Stop waiting for the world or your family or your job or your circumstances to grant you permission to be free. You already are. Now, you've got choices to make. You have that infinite architect. Try to spend all the time thinking that tomorrow I'm handing in my blueprint and I want it to be right? And start grooving new paths in your thinking about have to, ought to, should, versus choose to, love to, desire, right? When you go down the same path over and over again, it begins to spread, right? It becomes, first it's a little thin trail. Maybe it's only a few footprints, and then you go there again, and there you get a trail, and you get a path, and eventually there's a nice big road to follow. You've got to groove these new thoughts in. So start choosing. Choose often, choose deliberately, choose what serves you. Choose what grows you. You don't have to fly. You can fly and you choose to fly. You don't have to. But do you want to? Choose to fly like the eagle and survey the magnificent world that is available to you and the magnificent reach that you have with your wings. And have a good time. And build yourself one heck of a nice, it would be an eyrie if you're an eagle, right? You should build a nice eyrie. Choose and choose well. And so it is.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Spiritual Wisdom Weekly from the Greater Orlando Center for Spiritual Living. If this episode supported you in any way, we invite you to stay connected. Listen again, share it with someone you care about, or simply carry what resonated with you into your week. Until next time, take good care and keep growing in spirit.